In my last video, I showed the Easton-made 37D running with the 6-way wedge. And the one thing I forgot to mention, which was key because there were some comments, and I even noticed how much wood was piling up on the tray here and kind of getting, maybe the conveyor wasn't really keeping up with taking the wood away from the splitter. And the one thing I forgot to mention, and many of you probably remember this, but when I first got the 37D, it had a different motor on the conveyor that ran a lot faster. And because I was always running the box wedge, I just didn't feel like I needed that conveyor to be running as fast as it was. So Andrew sent me a different motor to swap out and put on the conveyor. So that is why the conveyor actually is running at a slower speed than what it originally ran at. And running the 6-way, yes, there were times when the wood would get kind of piled up and it seemed like it could not keep up. The conveyor could not keep up with the splitter. The other thing I mentioned in the last video was that I was going to be taking the Easton-made 37D up to Rick's woodyard. And for those of you who may not have seen it and may be new to the channel or may be wondering how you can take this splitter with the conveyor and haul it down the road, today I'm going to show you how this conveyor folds up, breaks down, and then just go over a couple things as far as anytime I have everything kind of down and not really splitting with it, I kind of like to go around and do the maintenance as far as greasing everything. It's not that difficult, so I'm going to show you guys what's all involved with that. I am going to swap out and take the 6-way out and put the 7-way box wedge back in. Well, not back in. I usually run the 5-way. I'm going to put the 7-way in because that's what Rick wants to use up at his woodyard. So there are two controls for the conveyor. One that runs the chain and one that lowers and lifts the conveyor itself. So what we need to do is we need to lift this up, fold these support legs in, and then we'll lower the conveyor all the way down, and I'll show you how it comes apart and folds up. And I also have something to cover as far as these pins that go in the legs. I had a bit of a issue with those, and I will show you what I did. So I'll start it up here, and again, this is a pretty simple process, and it's pretty cool how this all comes down and not really apart, but folds up, transforms. So I'm going to just lift up the conveyor a little bit, and I will bring up these legs. Those lock into place just like that, and then it's just a matter of lowering the conveyor down. Once the conveyor is down, you just undo these latches right here. There's one on each side. So now when I raise this up, with those latches unhooked, the conveyor just walks itself back in and folds right up. And I'm just going to stop right here because I want to adjust these legs, and I'm going to show you guys. So there's a couple grease zerks here, and then down here on the bottom of the conveyor. You can grease it right there. And then there's one here and one right there. So I end up greasing everything up, and then the other spot to grease is right down there. And that they recommend you grease daily, every time you're running this. But this is a good time, like I mentioned, when everything is kind of apart and you're getting ready to, I always like to do this before I leave, if I am taking this anywhere. Then I know once I get there, everything is ready to go. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I am going to show you guys, I did change these pins out, and I just like to put these legs all the way up when I'm in transport mode. But what I did, these legs came with this pin right here. And the problem I had with this was, if you are pushing this pin in and you don't exactly have everything lined up right, this thing can get turned and then boom, you can't pull your pin out or push it through and you're stuck. And you have to kind of try to fidget around, and one time I was able to get this pop back up so that I could pull it back out. But the other time that happened to me, I was not able to do that. So I had to grind it off. But yeah, I just did not like having to try to always make sure these pins were perfectly straight and then that you slid it through just right so that it would line up and not accidentally get pushed down and stuck inside. So I changed out to those pins right there, made a little, swap those out, and now that is what I use. Now you don't have to do this. I just know that once I get to Rick's Woodyard, we are going to be running this at the lowest setting we can. So I figured I may as well just bring these legs in now and again have everything ready to go when I get there. I did put the conveyor back down because I need to swap out the wedge, and it's easier to change these wedges with this catch table here lower down on the conveyor instead of having it up and coming in here with the tractor. So I lowered the conveyor back down, and now I'm going to swap out, take the 6-way wedge out and put the 7-way box wedge in. This was the easy part. Getting the wedge out. Getting the next one in alone is going to be the fun part. So I have this little stack of pallets that I store the wedges on. Oh, look at that! Ho, 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 ho. There we go. Now to get this box wedge out, what I end up doing is I end up hooking the chain around these wings right here on each side, so probably can't see this too good. Right here. So I hook the chain around that, and then I try to get this to lift from the top and somewhat tip up so that it will be in position to lower back down. So that didn't come out too bad. The only problem is I need it to be facing this way. I just need to get this close. So as long as you can get it started just like that, I should be able to hopefully now maneuver it and have it slide in there. But I'm not exactly sure. I might need to, see, this is where having two people comes in handy, because one person can kind of lift this up and guide it in as I lower it down. But I'll give it a shot. Ah, dang it. I didn't want to do that. There we go. Almost. Haha. All right. All right, successful swapping of the wedge. So there is the 7-way box wedge now in, ready to go. The chains I was using, those are the safety chains for hooking up and towing the 37D. So the only other thing I need then is the pullback arm, but I actually put this in the bed of my truck. I don't put it on the machine when I'm towing it. So once I fold up the conveyor and strap that together, strap that down, I'll raise the log lift up. Actually, I can show you that right now. The log lift lifts right up. And then I strap that down, so that is in place. And that's about it. Then everything is ready to go. All right, so there you go. For those that have never seen the Easton-made 37D with the attached conveyor break down into transport mode, that is how it's done. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And also, as a bonus, you got to see how I change out the wedges, which, again, is much easier with two people than it is with just one. But it can be done as you saw. All right, so that's gonna do it. I'm all set, ready to go. I can just back in here now tomorrow morning with my truck, hook up, and head on down the road. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Stay safe, have fun, and be cool.